Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
A very good morning and good evening. Thanks for joining the demo. Just give us a couple of minutes, we'll get started.
Sure, brother, sure.
Once again, welcome to the demo guides and thank you for showing interest into our Azure Data Engineering course. I'll just give you the agenda of what we are going to do for next 1 hour, and then probably we'll get into the demo. Okay. So, I'll be introducing myself, and then I'll be introducing the course. And I'll be talking about what you can actually expect out of this course. So by the end of this session, you'll get to understand what are the different data roles we have, and what we do as a data engineer, in day-to-day projects. Okay, and then I'm gonna walk you through the course curriculum. And I'll be taking your Q&A towards the end. I'll be spending around 15 to 20 minutes to take your questions and answers. Okay. So even before that, I'll be presenting few frequently asked Q&A, and then I'll be moving on to your questions and answers. Okay, so this is about today's agenda, guys, and let me introduce myself. I'm Suresh, and I have 12 plus years of experience into data. Might not be a data engineer. I was referred with a different nomenclature in the beginning of my career. I started as a Hadoop developer, where I have worked on distributed systems like HDFS, MapReduce, Hive, Scoop, and then I have transitioned my journey into Spark developer. When Spark took over MapReduce, and then I started my journey into cloud in 2018, if I'm not wrong. And from past 7 years, I have been working as a data engineer in cloud. Okay, so I have hands-on with most of the time with Azure, and then I have decent hands-on with GCP, and maybe less, but I do have hands-on with AWS as well. Just give me a second. Yeah. So I have worked with various organizations and on various domains, predominantly into uh, investments, financial organizations, and then I worked on supply chain management and also digital marketing. Digital marketing is for Google as a contractor, though not a full-time employee. So this is a brief introduction about me, and let me introduce this course. So this particular course has been designed to enable people coming from different backgrounds and then different experience. When I say different experience, some of you might be freshers, some of you might have good amount of experience, but into a different technology. So this course is designed in such a way that we start from the basics of data engineering, right from the definition of data, and then we'll take you uh, into the different tech stack we have. Okay, so now let's talk about data. Any idea what exactly data is? Any idea? Let's try to make this session as interactive as possible, guys. You can unmute yourself and then you can talk, or maybe you can use the chat window to interact. Any idea?
Data is something but information,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of information in
Okay.
the terms of if you take, we do get generally in rows and columns.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts?
All the information which we use in day-to-day life,
Mm-hmm.
like in any different various formats, not only in the type of, what do you call, not the numerical or something like that. We can use the data is in various kinds like audio or video files in
Mm-hmm.
many structured and unstructured formats.
Yeah, it can be anything, any information. It can be organized or unorganized.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a data.
Mm-hmm. So basically, in our day-to-day life, we use the terms data and information in the wrong context. Okay. So data is never the information, guys. It starts with data and then comes information. Okay. So bookish definition of data is collection of raw facts. I don't want to talk about bookish definitions here, but let me try to make you understand what exactly are these raw facts. So you talk about student credentials, or maybe you talk about student details, right? You will come up with some attributes like student ID, student name, and then the department in which he's studying, or maybe the address of the student, the current address and his residential address, all these things, right? They are what we call as attributes or details of the student. Okay, and this is what we call as data. And whatever the attributes I have mentioned, right, they are nothing but the raw facts. It can be some string, it can be some integer, or it can be anything. It can be a multimedia files as well. Okay. So now again, when we talk about product data, we'll talk about like product ID, product name, product image, and then the category to which a product belongs to, product price, the maximum discount you can offer on that product, right? So these details, all these details contribute to the product data. Likewise, we have employee data, we have sales data, we have revenue data, we have different types of data depending on which organization we are working for. Okay. So now what is information? Information is nothing but your processed data. Information is nothing but your processed data. I can give you a couple of examples. Let's say if I have given you a student's mark list of a particular section, just by looking at it at a first glance, you'll not be able to interpret anything. Maybe looking at the data, you might think that, boss, if I pick a student, I can get the marks he have scored in various subjects and then maybe his total and then percentage. Okay, but what if I tell you the average percentage of a particular section is 70? It is giving you some insights, right? What does it mean? If you pick any student in random, his percentage could be in and around that 70%. Okay, so there could be outliers who have secured way less than 70% or way more than 70%. That outliers could be minimum, but on an average, if you pick any student, most of them will have, most of them will have their percentage around 70. Okay. So information is nothing but your processed data, as simple as that. I'm not gonna get into the technical definition, but information is nothing but your processed data. Okay, now, depending on how your data is stored, how your data is processed, we have different classifications, guys. First classification being based on the structure, okay, which is structured data or unstructured data or semi-structured data. Okay, and then based on relevancy, you have another classification, transactional data or historic data. Okay, so there are different classifications, based on how your data is stored and the relevancy of the data. We have different classifications. I'm not going to get into these definitions today. Okay, but based on how you process your data, your processes are classified into two types again, whether it is a batch processing or it is a real-time streaming processing. Okay, so in our course, you'll get to understand all these things, how you can deal with all these different types of data. Might not be transactional because we are not dealing with OLTP systems here. We are dealing with OLAP systems. Okay, so might not be transactional, but rest everything you'll get to see here. Okay, how you are going to deal with the structured data, what exactly a structured data is, and then unstructured data, semi-structured data, transactional data. Transactional data we might not be focusing more, but how you deal with this historic process, and then you'll get to understand what this ETL process is, what ELT process is, difference between them, right? And then we'll get to understand what this batch processing is and real-time streaming processing is. You will get to understand all these things in our course. Okay. And then let's talk about data roles, guys. There are three roles. One is data engineer, and then data scientist. And there is one more role, data analyst. Okay. So there were different nomenclatures earlier, like I was mentioning Hadoop developer, Spark developer, ETL developer, Informatica developer. But now you no longer see such roles. You will see one generic role, which is data engineer. Okay, but before I go and talk about these roles, any idea what these roles is, what they actually does, and what skill set they need to have?
Yes, basically data analyst is a it's a basic role while dealing with the data. There are only few skills for that, like Excel, Python, and SQL mainly used.
Yep.
So for scientists, they come across with machine learning additionally after these skills. So data engineer is completely different. So while working with the data pipelines and something like that.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? He pretty much summarized it, but if anybody wants to add anything, please
Each,
go ahead.
each role requires a specific skill set, like an analyst you required on the reporting side, and it can be any tools, but reporting and
Perfect.
extraction.
Yes, this is something which I'm expecting.
And like scientists requires core levels on Python or something like those kind of things. So the expertise required is different, and the tools used are different on each roles.
So let me start with data analyst, guys. These are the three data roles. Couple of years ago, I was working for an organization called Publicis Sapient. I'm not sure how many of you know about it. I was working as a data manager there. And one thing I really loved about that organization is the way they have organized their data folks. Okay, so they have brought up a term called data full stack. Okay, I'm not talking about a traditional full stack technology, but they have brought in this term called data full stack. Okay, so the intention of data full stack is you should be expert in one of the three, but you should be doing other two as well. You should have knowledge on other two as well. Okay, so for example, I was a data engineer back then. I was working as an architect for them. Most of their managers are architects, and my core strength is data engineering. But they also want me to have good amount of knowledge in data scientist and data science and data analyst as well. Okay, meaning I should be able to build some basic Power BI reports or maybe some Tableau reports, right? Any reporting tool for that matter. And maybe I might not know the math of a AI/ML algorithm, but I should be knowing what a regression algorithm does, what a classification algorithm does, what a clustering algorithm does, deep learning does, so on and so forth. Okay. But talking about the actual roles, when we talk about data analyst, he should be having strong business knowledge as well. In addition to skill sets, some of our participants have mentioned like SQL, Excel, Python. Just a moment there. Guys, in the interest of the recording and others, if you are not talking, please ensure you're on mute all the time. Okay, so you are allowed to unmute at any point in time, but if you are not talking, please ensure you are on mute. Okay, thank you. So yeah, talking about data analyst, in addition to the skills, what our participants have mentioned, like SQL, Excel, reporting, they should have strong business knowledge as well. So what do I mean by business knowledge? Maybe he's working for finance organization. He should know how the business operates in that organization. Maybe he's working for a retail organization. He should have sound understanding on the business operations that are carried out, because every organization is unique, but the core would remain same. With few customizations, they would be carrying out their businesses. So data analyst should have a strong understanding on how the businesses happen. And then on top of it, he should know SQL, Python, not mandatory, but good to have. Excel, mandatory. And then one of the reporting tool. Because if you are comfortable with one reporting tool, you can you can use the other tools as well. Scaling up on other tools is not a big thing. Okay, so this is about data analyst. So basically, what he does is creating these reports, and most of the time he acts like a bridge between the technical roles and then business roles. Okay, or technical folks and business folks. So he brings requirement from businesses to the engineers. When I say engineers, it could be a data engineer or an ML engineer. Okay, and next, the data scientist. Okay, so he is the one who actually models your data. Let's say there is a requirement from analyst that, boss, we need to predict how our sales is going to be happening in the upcoming quarters so that we can plan our inventory. Okay, if that is the requirement, now this data scientist comes into picture. He kind of creates a model, and maybe he will try to give us a picture of how the model would work, how the data should look like, the input data for this ML algorithm should look like, and how the output would look like, all these things. Okay, and that is when data engineer comes into picture, because he cannot get the data by himself. Okay, because the data could be residing in their databases, in the organization databases or data warehouses, or sometimes they could be purchasing data from third-party companies. Okay, say for example, maybe I'm doing these trainings. Okay, I don't have all your data. Maybe I want to get some leads for conducting a demo, or to contact and get some folks who are interested. We call them as leads. Okay, so I can't do that by myself. I rely on somebody else who would do that for me and give me your contacts. Now I can contact you and probably invite you for a demo, or maybe whatever you are comfortable with, just to sell my product. Okay, so likewise, organizations also rely on some third-party organizations to purchase data to get the potential leads to sell their product. So data engineer is the one who works with all this data, extract them from all the different sources, because not everybody would be sharing data in the same source, right? Our internal data would be in our databases or data warehouses, and the external data, maybe they could be exposing their REST APIs, or maybe They could be sharing those files in SFTP servers, or maybe they should be sharing it by your SharePoint drive. Okay, so it could be anything, or through an email, Outlook. Okay, so it's your responsibility to extract data from all these sources and then do all the wrangling. When I say wrangling, transformation, massaging, it's all the same meaning, guys. Basically what I'm trying to do is I wanted to convert the data into a format my ML engineers or data analysts can readily consume from. Okay, so get that into that format and then provide your final data set so that your data scientist can directly use the output data set to run his ML algorithm, or maybe your data analyst can use your data to build his reports. Okay, so heavy lifting here is always done by the data engineer because he is the one who builds this, who automates this, who maintains this. Okay, so maybe tomorrow a new source is added. Again, he'll have to make sure it is going through the entire process seamlessly. Okay, so the entire process, whatever I have explained, right, starting from the extraction and then to transformation and then loading it to the final file or a data set or a table, whatever you want to call it as. Okay, this entire process is what we call as a pipeline. Okay, so here I'm talking about sources, right? That sources can provide you data in structured format or unstructured format or semi-structured format. Doesn't really matter. Data engineer should be capable enough to handle all these things. Okay, so like I was mentioning, data engineer is the guy who does the heavy lifting here. Okay, so I'm not taking credit from the other data roles. They have their own roles to play. But when it comes to data, yes, data engineer is the guy who is doing the heavy lifting. Okay. Let me take a pause. Are we good so far?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So I have one doubt.
Yeah,
Is
please.
any business knowledge is required for the data engineer role or not?
Good question, Naga. So actually, my name also has Naga Venkata Suresh. Cool. So yeah, coming back to the answer. No, answer is a big no. We don't really have to. We will rely on the business analyst for the same business analyst or data analyst or whatever the name you call him with. Okay, I started my career with TCS and I was working on a project called SDA, Sensor Data Analytics. Okay, so back then I was working on insurance domain. Okay, so it was all MapReduce thing where our clients are Nissan and another project I have worked on was food networks. Okay, these two are two different industries. One comes under automobile industry and another comes under food network. I mean, it's a food industry. Okay, so two different industries, and then I transitioned my career into EY Ernst and Young. There I have worked on forensics. So there was a team called FIDS, Forensic Investigation and Dispute Services. So I have worked for that team. Then I moved to Deloitte, where I have worked with Google as a contractor. There I have dealt with digital marketing. Trust me, I knew nothing about digital marketing data. Okay, and then I was into investment, financial investments, then into supply chain management for a couple of years, then into retail industry for a year, and currently I'm working for one of the major manufacturing industries. Okay, so it's humanly not possible, right? Learning so many businesses, but once you spend enough time in the project, you'll try to understand what your data is meant for the use case. Okay, so for example, they need something, you would be understanding what table to query, what tables to join, what metric to perform. This level of knowledge, you'll get it over time after multiple KTs. Hope I have answered your question, Naga.
Suresh, I have one
Yeah,
question.
please go ahead.
Do we need I mean Oracle or SQL knowledge also here?
Good to have, but not mandatory.
Okay, because sometimes this can be a sources to get the data into your warehouse or something like that, right? So
Mhm.
if we don't have the knowledge, it will be a problem, right? We should have you know how to get the data from Oracle also. You should know how to get the data from MS SQL also, correct?
I'll tell you. So here you should know what a JDBC connection is. You don't really have to know what Oracle is or what SQL Server is.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, so you don't have to do relational modeling here. Okay, so that
Correct.
level of knowledge is not needed. If you know how to use JDBC connections, that is more
Mhm.
than enough for you.
Okay, so you don't need to worry about normalization, denormalization, and then primary, foreign key, those things and all. If you don't have
Not
the knowledge
needed.
also, that is fine. That's what you're telling, correct?
Yes, not needed.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
That's a very good question, guys. I'm not sure how many of you understood. That falls into data modeling concept. You also need to understand what this data modeling is meant for us, especially when it comes to transactional and historic, right? Transactional data modeling is completely different, and then historic data modeling is completely different. So basically, I'm referring to transactional and historic here, but in industry we refer to OLTP and OLAP. I mean, this is too early to use those terms, but there we do a relational modeling. The normal forms he was referring to. And when it comes to our OLAP, right, most of the time we spend our time on OLAP, um, not as data engineers themselves. Okay, so they spend their time on OLAP building dimensional modeling. So where we will try to understand what a fact table is, what a dimension table is, different types of dimensions we have, and then we'll discuss about different types of schemas we have, star schema, snowflake schema. This knowledge is needed when it comes to modeling. Okay, so this I'll be covering as a part of this course. You don't have to really worry about it. Okay, but when it comes to different sources, right, you don't really have to understand each source. Sometimes you connect with SAP HANA, sometimes you connect with Teradata. It doesn't mean that, you will have to know everything about SAP HANA, not really needed. And trust me, if you are really good with SQL, you will be able to understand a lot of things. In my experience, I have migrated data from a lot of such sources. I have never written a stored procedure in my life, but I have converted a lot of store procedure scripts into PySpark scripts.
I
Okay.
mean, when you should have a knowledge on the stored procedure, right? When you're converting, or is there any ready-made tools to convert?
There are no ready-made tools as such. I mean, there are providing some tools, but
Okay.
they cannot convert the entire script seamlessly. So maybe 70% they should be able to do it. So for example, BigQuery, you have a tool. You give any script from a different source, it would be converting it into a BigQuery compatible script, but the accuracy is only 70%, 70 to 80%, depending on the script. And rest you'll have to do it by yourself. And again, what is a stored procedure, guys? It's nothing but SQL. SQL combined with additional programming capabilities. Okay. Now, talking about the skill sets, right? Data engineer, few people don't agree and, they keep arguing. But the most important skill set, which would suffice for 70% of your requirements is SQL. Okay, there are a lot of people who argue with me, but SQL is the most important thing. Okay, because SQL, you can scale up on any other things. And then Python, these days we are using Python a lot. And basically Python plus SQL combined, PySpark. Okay, so these are the three skill sets I would say. It doesn't matter what cloud you are using, doesn't matter what tool you are using, doesn't matter how you are going about it. But if you have these three skills along with some data concepts, like the fact table, dimension table concept I'm talking about, or maybe you have worked on how the data ingestion works, the JDBC connections works, all these things, right? If you have some understanding on these concepts along with the three I have mentioned above, like SQL, Python, PySpark, mark my words, you can excel in any service, any cloud related to data engineering. It doesn't matter whether it is a Databricks or a data factory or a BigQuery or anything else, right? Doesn't really matter. You can scale up on any cloud, any service. Okay. Now, since our course is on Azure Cloud, what we are going to learn as a part of this course. Okay. So we will be starting with introduction to SQL, sorry, introduction to data. So here I'll be talking about all the keywords I have given here. Most probably you can expect that in the first session itself. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about introduction to cloud. Here you'll get to understand what are the different types of clouds we have and the different types of cloud services we have. Different types of clouds we have like public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and then multi-cloud. And then talking about cloud services, we have SaaS, PaaS, infrastructure as a service, serverless. You'll get used to this terminology. Okay.
Mahesh, a small question, if you
Yeah.
don't mind. Can you also mention the duration generally it takes for each of these topics in general?
Satya,
it cannot be accurate.
I'll take this question towards the end. Is that
Okay.
fine?
Yeah, I was just thinking like how much time we are going to spend during the training on these each
Yeah,
topic.
I would do that. I told you FAQs, right? I have those questions as a part of FAQs.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, introduction to cloud, and then we'll start with our first service in Azure, which is ADLS Gen 2, or maybe I would say storage account. Okay, so this is the storage service which we will use in Azure. So we'll start with that. Here we'll try to understand, what exactly a container is, what exactly medallion architecture is, how do we impose lifecycle management policies to archive your data. Different tiers we have: hot tier, cold tier, cool tier, and then archive tier, and then compressions we do, and then we'll try to understand what exactly an access key is. All these things. I mean, here I'm not typing all of them, but you can find them in the document shared with you. I hope you must have got a chance to go through it, but I'm just reiterating. Okay, and then we'll be starting with Azure Databricks. Okay, and Azure Databricks, I will be starting with SQL. I would spend around 5 to 6 sessions on SQL, explaining what SQL is, because like I was mentioning, right, I don't expect every one of you to have some data background. No, I don't. Okay, so there could be some freshers, there could be experienced folks, there could be folks coming from different backgrounds. So you'll have to bear with me if you already know SQL for this 1 week. I'm going to talk about SQL for a week. Okay. And once we are done with this SQL, I'm going to start PySpark. I'm not going to teach Python here. Okay. But if you ask me, boss, will I be able to understand PySpark without Python? If you know SQL or if you understand SQL, you'll be able to understand PySpark. You might get little confused with the syntaxes, but still you should be able to pull it off. But if you don't know SQL, you know Python, PySpark doesn't make any sense to you. Okay, but yeah, learning Python would definitely give you that edge. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, if you are really interested, what topics you need to learn for Python in the first or second session of our course. Okay, but yes, even without Python knowledge, you should be able to understand what this is doing. And I'm gonna show you a couple of examples how a guy who knows Python code and who doesn't know Python code. Okay, so I'll show you those examples as well. Both does the purpose. Okay, and once we are done with this, then we'll talk about Spark architecture. We'll talk about Databricks as a service, different types of compute we have, Unity catalog, optimization techniques, salting, skewness in the skewed distribution of your data, and how do we deal with it, and different file formats we have like Avro, Parquet, Delta, CSV, JSON, different file formats, and how we deal with them. Okay, so a lot of things we'll be covering under Databricks. We would be spending close to a month on Databricks itself, guys. Okay, and then I'll be starting Azure Data Factory. If somebody already have hands-on with SSIS or tools like any SSIS or Informatica or any ETL tool, this is exactly same on cloud with a different UI. Okay, so this is a kind of low code or no code tool, guys. Okay, so meaning you have a UI and you'll have a lot of connectors, and you do all the transformations using this UI. You just drag an activity and then you just configure it, completely configuration based. So for example, you want to copy file from one storage account to another storage account. Okay, you can just do that using a copy activity. All you do is configuring it. Maybe you want to do some transformations. You have something called as data flow activity. You do all those transformations using that activity itself. You don't have to write a single line of code. Okay, so Azure Data Factory is a kind of a low code, no code tool using which you can actually build your pipelines. Okay, and then I'm going to talk about Azure Synapse. Okay, Azure Synapse Analytics. By now, Azure Synapse, talking about Synapse, 75% of the Azure Synapse is already covered above, because Synapse is nothing but Data Factory plus Databricks plus a reporting tool. I'll not be covering any reporting tool as a part of this course, but I'll be showing you how you can actually build your pipelines in Synapse as well. You have different pools, dedicated pool, serverless pool, and then Spark pool. And then I'm going to show you the UI, how it is different from the other resources we have learned. And then we have something called as Azure Key Vault. This is a tool which we use to manage any sensitive data, guys, like your passwords or access keys or any certificates we use, right? Yeah, so we will be using this Azure Key Vault to store those things. Okay. Now, this is a brief summary of what we are going to do for next couple of months. Now, duration of this course is 40 hours. Okay, it would be 2 months actually. So the reason for not mentioning it as 2 months and 40 hours is, depending on how our course goes. Okay, so depending on the number of participants we have, we might spend more time to, based on the questions you ask, based on the understanding level you have, based on the time I'll have to spend in the initial few days to make you get acquainted with all the terminology I'm using. Okay, so it will be close to 40 hours plus or minus 5. Okay, and duration of each session and other things, you can probably reach out to Career IT folks, whoever have provided you this link, whoever is in touch with you for everything, right? Spock. You can contact your Career IT Spock for all the administrative related information, like the timings of the session, when this batch is going to start, price of the course, all these administrative things, they'll be able to provide you. Okay. And another frequently asked question, is, boss, I come from a different background. I come from a different things, or I don't have any prior experience working on data engineering. Not needed. My simple answer, not needed. What matters is your efforts. Okay. So the trends on data engineering last 1 year, especially for US, last 3-4 months, I'm seeing some positive things happening. But before that, it has been a difficult time for me as well as a trainer. Most of my students who completed their course, they were not able to clear interviews. They were not able to get the calls itself. Forget about clearing the interviews. That's the second thing. They are not even getting the calls. It was a really hard time, but last 3-4 months, I'm hearing some positive things. From my last batch, one student got recruited, and then the batch I have taken in January, that was a very fulfilling batch for me. Almost 3 students got jobs. Okay, so from last 3-4 months, I'm hearing some positive things about the job market as well. It attributes to job market most of the time, but just want to let you know. And another question I keep hearing is, boss, what happens when this AI took over, or what is the impact of the AI things that are happening outside? My simple answer, even for AI to work, it needs data. Okay, so I don't think AI can impact any of these data roles, not just data engineers, but any of the data roles. Like I was mentioning, right? We have to coexist with it. It's not like AI replacing us. We just need to coexist, and it helps us improving our efficiency, because the data problems I see, you can never automate it, no matter what. People tried with different tools, different other things, but it always needed a data engineer. And we are talking about data scientist. I keep telling these guys, whenever you are into a machine learning course or anything, learning an algorithm doesn't make you a data scientist. You should understand the math behind it. Okay. So for example, I can tell you what a regression algorithm does or what a KNN does or an RNN does. Okay. It doesn't make me a data scientist. For me to be called as a data scientist, I need to understand what's happening inside. Okay. I need to understand the math. If needed, I'll have to do the optimization. Okay. Or if needed, I'll have to tweak the algorithm, how the way it is working. Only then I can call myself a data scientist. And whenever you find a data scientist with that amount of knowledge, he can never be replaced, no matter how automated tools that comes into picture. Okay. So that's another reason why I would never start an AML course, because I don't have that level of knowledge. Okay. So this is another question. And then how many sessions do we have in a week? Again, it depends on the participants, guys, because I cannot take session on my Saturday morning, and some students says that they cannot attend a session on their Sunday evening, which is my Monday morning. So generally, what we do is we take 4 sessions starting from Tuesday to Saturday evening, my time. For you, it would be Monday to Thursday evening. Okay, so usually I take 1 hour 15-minute sessions to compensate the lost session. Okay, so either it's going to be 5-hour sessions. It's going to be 5-hour session per week. Either it's going to be 1 hour session daily from IST Monday to Friday evening, or it's going to be 1 hour 15-minute sessions from Tuesday IST morning to Friday IST morning. Okay, so again, it boils down to participant's choice. It's you who are going to choose this. Okay, and we go by majority. After the batch is confirmed, we go by majority. And what do you get after this course? First thing, we will schedule a one-on-one session. Again, it should be you. One-on-one session for resume walkthrough. Okay, so this would happen once you have created your resume or the first cut of your resume, and you started marketing your profile. We will create one-on-one session. I mean, we'll connect in one-on-one session, and I'll make sure your resume is good enough to get shortlisted based on your experience and role. Okay, so this is not part of the course, or I'm not doing this as a part of the course, because everybody comes from different background and different experience ranges, right? So we will schedule a one-on-one session. Again, you will have to initiate the process though, and this would happen only on weekends. Okay, so don't waste this session, guys. Don't just come to this session just because you have completed the course. Okay, do enough preparation from your side, create your resume, and then schedule this one-on-one session where I should be able to give you